Most people walk past. He didn't. And that one decision changed everything. There are moments in life that happen so fast you don't even have time to think. 1 second, everything is normal. The next second, someone has to make a choice. Step in or look away. Most people look away. Not because they're bad people, but because fear is loud and courage is quiet. This is the story of a man named Daniel, a single dad. Nobody special, at least not on paper. But what he did on a Tuesday evening in a parking lot in less than 30 seconds set off a chain of events that nobody saw coming. Stick around because this story is going to hit different. Daniel was a 38-year-old father of one. His daughter Emma was 7 years old and the whole reason he got up every morning. He worked the early shift at a warehouse, came home smelling like cardboard and effort, made dinner, helped with homework, and did it all over again the next day. No co-parent, no backup, just him and Emma against the world. He didn't talk much, didn't post on social media, didn't have big dreams of being noticed. He was the kind of guy who held the door open for strangers and never expected a thank you. On that Tuesday, he had picked Emma up from school and stopped at a grocery store on the way home. It was a normal evening. Tired, a little distracted, just trying to get through the day. That's when he heard it. A little girl, maybe 5 or 6 years old, was crying near the far end of the parking lot. Not the kind of crying kids do when they want candy. The kind that comes from the stomach, raw, scared, and 2 men were pulling her by the arm, trying to get her into a silver car, telling her to stop crying, telling her everything was fine. Everything was not fine. Now here's where most people freeze. And researchers actually have a name for this, or it's called the bystander effect. Studies show that the more people there are around in an emergency, the less likely any single one of them is to help. Everyone assumes someone else will do something. There were at least 6 other people in that parking lot that evening. None of them moved. Daniel moved. He told Emma to stay by their car and he walked, not ran, walked him directly toward those 2 men. He didn't yell. He didn't threaten. He just looked at the little girl and said, "Hey, you okay?" She shook her head no, and that was enough. What happened next took less than 20 seconds. Daniel was not a fighter by hobby, but he was a father by nature, and something about seeing a child being taken flips a switch in a person that no amount of fear can turn back off. He stepped between the men and the girl, and when the first man grabbed his shoulder to push him away, Daniel made sure that man didn't try anything twice. The second man looked at his friend on the ground and made a very smart decision to run. Daniel picked up the little girl, walked back to his car, called the police, and sat on the curb with her until they arrived. Emma held the girl's hand the whole time. She didn't even really understand what had happened. She just knew the girl was scared, and she didn't want her to be alone. The police came. Turns out those 2 men had a history. The little girl's name was Sophia. She had wandered away from her grandmother inside the store just minutes before. The men had spotted her almost immediately. If Daniel had been 60 seconds later leaving the store, if he had parked on the other side of the lot, if he had just looked away, Sophia's story might have ended very differently. The grandmother arrived at the scene completely broken. She couldn't even form full sentences. She just held Sophia and kept looking at Daniel like she was trying to find the right words for something that didn't have words. Daniel told the officer what happened, gave his contact details, and then took Emma home and made pasta. Just like any other Tuesday. He didn't post about it. He didn't call anyone. He just gave Emma an extra long hug at bedtime and told her that when you see something wrong, you do something about it, even when it's scary. Especially when it's scary. Now here's where the story takes a turn nobody expected. Sophia's grandmother wasn't just a grandmother. She was the personal assistant and closest friend of Marcus Chen. And Marcus Chen was the CEO of one of the largest logistics companies in the country, a man who had built a business from nothing, who had interviewed thousands of people, who had a reputation for being able to read a person's character within minutes of meeting them. She told him what happened. She showed him the parking lot security footage that the police had shared with her. Marcus watched it once. Then he watched it again. He didn't see a hero making a big dramatic move. He saw a quiet man who didn't hesitate, who didn't look around to see if anyone was watching, who put himself between danger and a child he had never met, and then sat on a curb and held it, together for 2 scared little Girls, while everything settled down, Marcus made one call that night to find out who Daniel was. The next morning, Daniel was getting Emma ready for school when there was a knock at the door. He opened it and there was a man in a suit standing next to Sophia's grandmother. He didn't know who Marcus was. Marcus introduced himself, said he owed him something impossible to repay, and asked if he could come in. They sat at Daniel's kitchen table. Emma stared at the suit. Daniel offered instant coffee because that was all he had. Marcus didn't want the coffee. He wanted to offer Daniel a job. Not a small job, a real one. A management position at his company. One that came with a salary Daniel hadn't even dreamed about since before Emma was born. Marcus told him straight, "I spend a lot of money trying to find people with good judgment and real character. You have both." I watched the tape. "You didn't think about yourself once." Daniel was quiet for a long time. Then he said he'd need to find a school near the new office. He started 3 weeks later. Emma got enrolled in a school 2 blocks from the office. Daniel went from cardboard boxes to conference rooms. Not because he chased it, not because he networked or hustled or personal branded himself into relevance, but because on a regular Tuesday, he chose to be the person who moved when everyone else stood still. Sophia's grandmother sends Emma a birthday card every year now. Sophia is 8 and apparently tells everyone at school that her favorite superhero is a man named Daniel. Here's the thing about this story that I keep coming back to. We spend so much time waiting for our big moment. The moment that changes everything. We think it's going to come with a spotlight and a clear sign that says, "This is it." But for Daniel, it was a parking lot, a tired evening, a little girl crying, and a choice that took less than a second to make. Character doesn't show up when it's convenient. It shows up when it's hard. And the people who act right when it costs them something, those are the ones who end up with lives that actually mean something. You don't have to take down 2 guys in a parking lot to live like Daniel. You just have to be the one who moves when everyone else stands still.